Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Tuesday, the 14th of February. It's Valentine's Day, of course, and love is very much in the air as we're talking all things Rangers. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined firstly by Jonny McFarlane. How's it going, Jonny?
Yes, Derek, good to be back. Going fine. So, I've not even opened my Valentine's Day card. I do have one.
Ooh.
That will shock people. But we'll see how that goes later on today.
Fantastic. What about you, Stevie? Is there a lot of love in the Clifford household this morning?
No, mate, we've been married for 10 years. So, we don't bother with these things anymore. Together 12 years or so. I think she'll probably get a high five later. That's about as much as we'll get.
Lucky girl.
That's relationship goals, that, isn't it?
It is absolutely, certainly your hashtag winning. Certainly that comes to mind. Right, let's talk all things Rangers, folks. Before we do that, just a quick word. Firstly, you can see the little ticker below. We've got that amazing offer on just now, a fantastic giveaway week. You can win 2 tickets to the upcoming League Cup final at Hampden. All you have to do is sign up to the Rangers Review, just £1 for 3 months. It's a cracking offer. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to sign up. It's dead easy to do so to be in with a chance of winning those gold dust tickets to that cup final. And a quick word as well to our podcast sponsors, Seneca Hair Restoration. These are the #1 guys to go to if you're looking for perhaps a Todd Cantwell on top of your head or reinvigorating the top of your head. Perhaps they're the #1 hair restoration corporation in Europe due to its elite hair restoration services and innovation techniques. And as ever, I've put the links to their social media channels and the website in the description box. Right, let's talk Rangers, gents. Before we touch on the Scottish Cup draw, you both were at Ibrox on Sunday, wasn't it? The Partick Thistle game. Interested to get your take on it. I was on the video yesterday, and it was interesting hearing some of the comments coming in with regards to the big talking point, something that I very much doubt we'll see ever again at Ibrox. First of all, Jonny, you were there at the time. The Malik Tillman controversy, if you like, Rangers allowing Partick Thistle to score a goal unopposed. What was your feelings at the time, and after hearing what Michael Beale had to say with regards to the reasoning behind it, what did you make of it all?
Well, it was certainly an interesting moment trying to get your head around exactly what had happened and how. I was watching the game and saw what looked like a pretty nasty challenge on Malik Tillman, and then I've got to be honest, I was thinking to myself, the last thing Rangers need here is for Malik Tillman to be missing for this Old Firm game. So he didn't look too good. One of the things people kind of have not said too often is he was down for 2, 3, 4 minutes. And I was sort of tapping away at my keyboard, doing little bits and bobs for the website as this was going on, because as you do when you've got a match report, etc., to write up. The next thing I looked up, and he was nicking the ball off one of the Partick Thistle players. So I didn't see kind of what happened with the throw-in or the bad touch or anything like that until I watched it back. But I was just kind of marvelling at, and again, this is something that's not really been said, is quick feet. I mean, it was a moment of incredible skill to go past the keeper like that and to turn back and shot back again before tapping it into the net. So I was a bit perplexed, but obviously people around me kind of explained what had happened. And fundamentally, I know there's a lot of different opinions on this, guys, and I understand where all these opinions are coming from. But I do think that it was the right thing to do. I think Michael Beale has covered himself and the club in a lot of glory. If you look at the way people are reacting to this across the UK, it's very, very positive. Michael Beale and the club itself are getting a lot of kudos and are getting a lot of good press. People are rightly questioning, well, would this have happened against Celtic? Personally, I don't think it would have. And Michael Beale, again, in the presser, when I thought, gave a terrific explanation of what happened, said as much. He said, this was Partick Thistle at Ibrox in the Scottish Cup, and there has to be cognizance of that. Ultimately, it was a big decision for Michael Beale to make. People have been saying that, this was a decision that could have backfired on Michael Beale, and you better believe that that's true. This was a really, really, really brave decision for me. This is a guy, if he'd lost this game, single-handedly could have lost a chunk of the Rangers support. There's no doubt of that, because people are very, very passionate about this, and very, very passionately believe, if you go by Twitter, that he got it wrong by doing what he did. So if this had ultimately led to Rangers being knocked out of the cup by Partick Thistle, this would be the controversy to end all controversies. So it wasn't the easy thing for anyone to do. And you look at it now in the cold light of day. You look at that 1 minute section of the presser that I put up on the Rangers Review after the game, where he talks about Malik Tillman not being the kind of player that's ever cheated anyone, about why he didn't know what had happened. It all makes perfect sense. It's completely lucid. It doesn't feel like a patched together story. It just feels like the truth. And I think if you watch that and you still feel really, really angry about it, it is what it is. I feel like if most rational people will watch that and say, I still disagree, but I can understand. And that's where I think people should be at, regardless. Personally, I think it was the right thing to do from a sporting integrity point of view. Rangers are more than a club, and we always talk about standards. This is an example of those standards. Sometimes there is a price to pay for standards, and the price there was that you lose an equalising goal. So for me, I was thinking about it. I was quite proud of the team and quite proud of the manager that they took that hard decision.
Yeah. Before we get your take on it, Stevie, I'll touch lots of comments coming in. This one, given it's Valentine's Day, iron blue, but blue doesn't quite rhyme, but it says roses are red, violets are blue, Tillman scores, and then we let Partick score unchallenged. What was your take of the whole situation and looking back on it now at the cold light heart today?
You'll not be surprised to know, Derek, that I missed it entirely because, like Jonny, I was actually noting down at the time, I said this last night, I was noting down at the time the minutes and stuff that had happened because I thought it was a really bad challenge. And I thought I need to come back to this later on just to double check for my notes and try and see the footage of it, because I still think it's quite a naughty little stamp on Tillman. And people have said it's just how he's landed. But if you go back and watch it, he actually deviates where he's putting his foot to make sure it does land on Tillman. So that was a wee bit naughty, and I was taking notes at the time, so I looked up just as he was cleaning. So I was all excited that he was one-on-one, rounds the goalie, does his thing and scores. And the reaction, my immediate thought with the reaction was they were reacting to how he had finished it when he kind of rolled his foot over. I didn't understand it entirely. I had missed the whole thing. And Martin Ramsey said next to me, kind of explained what had went on. And then obviously what transpired next. And I found that I probably was one of the only ones. I was watching Alan McGregor, and I found it quite amusing because he was not having it in the slightest. So he was shaking his hand and, going no, and you could hear him quite clearly. There was a lull around the stadium when it kind of transpired and what was happening. So we could hear him shouting what he was shouting. And then obviously it transpired. And look, I'm entitled to be completely hypocritical here because we won, and we can now sit back and say, look, it was entirely the right thing to do. And having listened to both managers, not only Michael Beale, but Ian McCall as well, I think the whole thing was a misunderstanding. But you better believe that if we had not won on Sunday, the reaction would be a lot different, not only probably from myself, but from everybody. So it was a massive risk from Michael Beale. I do think it's the right thing to have done. I think the whole thing was a misunderstanding. You could see that Malik Tillman would have missed the whole thing in its entirety. And listen, I think that he would never have done that in normal circumstances either. So it's just one of those things. Just when you go along, thinking that last week was quite quiet, Rangers' point of view, and we had nothing really to worry about, and it was nice. So you went along Sunday thinking this should be, a fairly good afternoon. It should be okay. And Rangers, in classic Rangers style, there's an easy way, and then there's a Rangers way, and we always seem to make it interesting on the afternoon. So that incident certainly, you know, a major talking point. But the overall performance and things for me is more of a talking point than those couple of minutes. If you put them aside and put it down to a misunderstanding, it was sorted out fairly quickly. You know, it goes straight back to the same status quo. Rangers need to kind of concentrate on where we are, performance-wise and things like that under Beale and stuff. So I think there's more to talk about that way than there is the incident's done and dusted. What I will say is, man management-wise for Michael Beale, I think it was incredibly good. And when you think about those players in the dressing room, should, in theory, be sitting going, here's a guy that will protect us at all costs. He'll put us ahead of the team. He'll put us ahead of the club, everything to make sure he protects us. We need to give him the same back. And I would certainly hope that would not galvanise the dressing room, but I would certainly hope that the dressing room would be 100% behind Michael Beale, probably even more so than they were to begin with because of his actions. So instead of people talking about Malik Tillman, they're now talking about Michael Beale. So I think man management-wise and things like that, it's worked out really, really well for him and for the club. We've not got away with it as such. It was 1-1 at the time anyway. So, but I just think Michael Beale-wise has come out of it really well, and so have the club. But it was definitely one of those situations, like Jonny said, that could have went the other way.
Yeah, totally agree. And before we get to some of the comments that are coming in, and we'll touch on that performance, Ian Campbell says, morning Derek, Stevie and Jonny, happy Valentine's Day everyone. Sad it's only new subscribers that are in the draw for the Old Firm match. That's not the case, Jonny, is it? Current subscribers, do they get an email? You need to fill in the entry form, Ian, and that's you entered into the draw. So it's not just new subscribers. You can also enter if you're already a subscriber to the Rangers Review. You should have an email. If not, then let us know and we'll get that sorted for you so you can enter into the draw.
Check your junk mail, is what I would say, just in case it's gone in there. But there's definitely been at least 2 emails with the link to fill in the form already been sent out to current subscribers. And there will be more.
Yeah. Just before we talk on the performance, lots of comments coming about the challenge just prior to the incident, Jonny. Robert Binney says, major flashpoint that tackle in Tillman. No mention of it from the media. Aldo says, why did VAR not check the stamp? He calls it. Were you surprised there wasn't retrospective action taken on that at all?
Personal opinion is that it was a booking, not a red card. I don't think it's a stamp. Listen, maybe I need to watch it again. I've only seen it once, I think. Obviously at the game when I kind of was watching it in real time, which you can't really tell from there. That clearly, and then I've seen it once, but it didn't look like a deliberate stamp to me. It looked more like a mistimed challenge. I don't think when I saw the video he was looking down as if he was going to deliberately aim for Tillman's leg. I thought it was more reckless. It was definitely a bad challenge. It was definitely a yellow card. But I don't think it's one that VAR would pull up and go back to and say it's a red, if that makes sense. So that's my kind of verdict on it. But maybe I need to see it again because there are a lot of people that are telling me it was a red.
Yeah, lots of comments saying not agreeing with it. What was your view on the challenge, Stevie? And you're a qualified referee. Would you be brandishing a red card for that one?
Well, Derek, look, let's use that term qualified referee very loosely. If you had seen my performances the last couple of weeks on amateur Saturday morning stuff, you might be changing your mind. But listen, I thought at the time it was naughty, right? And having watched it back, I think there's a definite intent where he places his foot. I'm with Jonny in terms of it's a really difficult one. I'm not sure it's a stamp. Does he deliberately stand on him? Does he deliberately place his foot where he does? That's a different argument. And I think if you watch it, it goes back to what I said, there's a deviation in where he's landing his foot and he moves it. Whether he's moving it intentionally, I think there's an argument there he is. But the reason VAR would have checked it, VAR checks everything. So just because they don't, the only time you see it come up on the screen is when they're talking to the match official. So in essence, VAR looks at the game just like the referee does in slow time after. And if they decide then that they need to rewatch and recheck things, that's when you'll get a VAR announcement. So technically when you say that VAR doesn't check things, it's not quite right. VAR probably looked at that and interpreted it as being that they couldn't intervene because it wasn't a red. So it's probably, do you know what? In fairness and looking at it and everything else, it's probably somewhere between a yellow and a red. Yeah. Sometimes they're given, right? Other angles you might look at it, sometimes they're given, and sometimes they're not. So I think that's the fairest way to kind of describe it. I don't think it's clear-cut red. I don't think it's definitely a red. I think on some days the interpretation of it, you could have looked at it. I do think that the best way to describe it is being naughty. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. And I think that there's a naughtiness about it. I'm like Jonny. I've not seen it entirely properly yet. I've seen it live, and then I went on night shift straight after the game, so I've not managed to see the highlights of it yet. And that's kind of where I am with it. But people saying that it was a really bad, really naughty challenge and really, really difficult one, I can agree with as well. So for me, it's somewhere in between yellow and red, Derek. I think that's the best way to describe it. And that's probably why VAR didn't go for a full check and didn't decide to ask the referee to look again.
Yeah. On the performance, Michael Beale said in his post-match press conference that he has to have a chat with the players in the week. Interesting point raised here by Neil McBain. Jonny says, we need to up our performance in the coming games, struggling to beat a first division team. Is it a concern for you? That's Ross County, and now this game, I think you called the first half lousy on at the weekend. Struggling ever since the win at Tynecastle. I don't think Rangers have been anywhere near that standard in recent games. Is it an issue playing at home, Jonny? Do you think that Rangers are struggling to deal with these teams that just park the bus pretty much?
It's a weird thing, right? Because under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, I'd watch these games and teams would take the lead or teams would cause problems, and you were never fully confident Rangers would bounce back. Yet under Michael Beale, I'm always completely confident that he'll find a solution. So while the performances have been pretty average at times, and there's been spells in games under Michael Beale where they've been really good, and I think the Hearts game's utterly fantastic. You saw the levels that they can get to. There's a sort of Walter Smith style thing going on where you're just completely comfortable that the manager knows what he's doing and he'll get there in the end. I don't think anyone was kind of worried about that game. I didn't sense that in the stadium. There was serious concern in there about that game. Yeah, on Sunday. I mean, at half-time, we were all saying what a bad performance it was, but you knew that once he injected some pace and he would see the problem, the game would be turned around, and so it proved. I think Beale will look at these games and want to be offering more entertainment value, more attacking quality, more cohesion in the final third. But I do think it will come. I do think Rangers have got a good one. I was speaking to a coach last night who was saying, this guy's the real deal. I see so much in what Rangers are doing that when it comes together, it will be fantastic. You just get a sense that Michael Beale has fit into the element of Rangers statesman unbelievably well, which is hardest part of being a Rangers manager. The football side he's got, but the Rangers statesman side, I mean, this is a guy that's had 6 months as a manager prior to arriving at the club. I think he's done an unbelievable job. He's shown what a really, really, really talented football manager he is, and the levels that he can go to are very, very high indeed. It's early days, probably getting ahead of myself to some extent, but we're talking 13 games, 12 wins, 1 draw. So I find it really, really difficult to be too critical of what Michael Beale has done, because the difference to me is night and day in terms of the level of confidence I feel watching these games. People can tell me if they feel different, but there was a tension in there around Ibrox when a Giovanni Van Bronckhorst side went 1-0 down. That just isn't there under Michael Beale, because people know that he has it in his locker to find solutions. So I think they'll get there. I think they'll use Hearts as the North Star, that kind of performance, and it'll be about finding the cohesion and the team playing together week in, week out, and also Michael Beale making adjustments in the transfer market to the kind of players that that are in the squad and players coming back from injury. I think Rangers are in the ascendancy at the moment, and I don't think that that's going to stop anytime soon. I think we all hope that that's the case, but I genuinely believe it.
Yeah, lots of comments agreeing with you, Jonny. I wanted to touch on a few more with you, Stevie, with regards to that first half performance in particular. Stuart Lang says the only thing Beale got wrong on Sunday was the starting lineup. That's echoed by Stephen Smith. He says, bad decision by Beale to make so many changes nearly cost us. And this is an interesting one from Denzel. He says, isn't the first half a warning what things will be like without Kent? Of course, he came on at halftime. I see you both nodding. Stevie, is that a fair point?
First of all, tackle that. And yeah, we talked about this, Derek. He said before Ross County that Rangers now have the numbers and they now have the players to play without Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos. In theory, absolutely correct. In reality, it's not. I'm a massive Ryan Kent fan. I think everybody knows that. Rangers can't survive at this moment in time without Ryan Kent. And if he does go, they need to majorly replace him. There isn't a like for like there in that squad. Go back a wee bit about why this is happening. Whether we like it or not, and we've spoke a long time about this Rangers team coasts, right? The attitude is I'm not going to say the attitude's wrong, but the attitude can be relaxed at times. And it causes us issues in games. And we do coast. We 100% coast. And that causes us real issues. Not to single out players, not to criticise players. I don't want to do that. But you look at Glenn Kamara at Tynecastle and look at Glenn Kamara in the first half on Sunday. They're not comparable on how they perform and how they play. And the reason is, and it goes back to what I'm saying, sometimes they coast. Now, most teams coast at 2-3-0 up. We turn up on Sunday and coast at 0-0 in the first half. I'm not going to sit here and say that Michael Beale's selection was wrong on Sunday, because when I looked at it at the start, I was quite interested to see Cantwell on the left and Hadji back in about it and stuff like that. In reality, it didn't work. So I can't sit and be two-faced about it. The one thing I did say, which was problematic, is there was no pace. And I think that causes real issues. I think when you look at Antonio Cholak, when you look at Tillman and things, they need people around them that make runners, that can provide space and intelligent passes and things. We didn't really get that. Todd Cantwell got it a lot, and he was looking, and there was nobody running off or beyond him. When Roof and Kent came on, the difference in their running, Kamar Roof's movement is absolutely fantastic. Arguably the best in a number 9 position we have. And he immediately started causing issues. Ryan Kent just occupies. He injects pace. He injects a wee bit of tempo. And even if Ryan Kent's not on it, finishing-wise and stuff, and we've said that quite a lot, we know that that's a major flaw in his game. He occupies and does stuff with defenders that causes real issues. So is it a wee insight into life without him? Unfortunately, it is. I'm confident that Ryan Kent will be a Rangers player in the future. So I'm hopeful that we'll not have to tackle that, Derek. But I just think that Michael Beale, I can't criticise it because I didn't at the time, but I think in hindsight, he's maybe looking at it now. I asked him afterwards, he sat in front of a few times in the pressers and said, that's not a Rangers performance, that's not up to scratch. You saw it yourself, Derek, at the St Johnstone game, where he said similar, I'm not happy with where we are, I'm not happy with the performance. That's a few times now he sat in front of us and said that. So I asked him that question, and he said, I've got to take responsibility. A lot of it's on me. Am I messing about with it too much? Am I making too many changes? I think, and this may be controversial or not, I'm not sure. I think that Michael Beale on this run maybe thinks that the results are a bit more easier to come by. So he might have possibly been lulled into that, where he can chop and change a wee bit to try and get it. He wants to get footballers on the pitch. I think that's quite clear. But I think what he's maybe learned, and what I hope he's learned, is that we need a core of that squad to play no matter what. There's some players in that team that can't come out no matter what. Ryan Kent should always start and then come off, right? If that's the way he wants to do it. So if he wants Yanis Hadji to get 45 or 60 minutes, he has to come off on the bench. He can't play instead of Ryan Kent. And this is only my opinion. But I think that's possibly what's happening with Michael Beale and why things haven't quite clicked the way it should in certain games. I think maybe he talked about the team being fussy last week, and then he said that they were lousy in the first half. So it's quite expressive from him, but he doesn't hide from it. So I kind of agree with him on where he is. It's not a criticism of him. It didn't work out. So ultimately he'll sit and say, that's on him. And he did say that. But from our point of view, I think that he's probably learning quite a lot from these games, Derek, in terms of what he can and can't do. And I think maybe that's where we are. To go back to why this happens, I still think, and it goes back to that word I use again, that we coast in places where we shouldn't. To get out of that, and this is, by the way, this isn't suddenly a Michael Beale issue. This happened to Steven Gerrard. It happened to Gio, and it's now happening to Michael Beale. I don't think it's necessarily a manager thing. I think it's a squad issue, and that's what we have. We maybe have too many players that are relaxed in positions that they shouldn't be. How do we fix that? Goes back to things we've already said about possibly this squad needs wholesale changes to it to change the mentality now. In the summer, there's a possibility to do that with so many going out of contract and things like that. So it might happen in an evolution kind of thing naturally, but that's the issue for me that they have to fix.
Yeah, it's a point that Al McInnes agrees with you. Stevie says, great point, Stevie. We do coast. Don't think our team can play Cantwell, Kamara and Hadji in the same team. They were playing on top of each other. Before we get to the Scottish Cup draw, John, there's an interesting point coming in here from Gilroy. He says, I'm a subscriber, but can never find the entry form. Just regards to that giveaway, the Old Firm Cup final. I've tried many times through the website, so having a bit of difficulty with regards to that. How can we help him out?
Well, first of all, you won't get it through the website. You get it via email. So whatever email, Gil, you use to sign up, it will come through that. It should have come last week. So if you've not got it in your inbox, it should be in your junk mail. If you've not got that, basically give me an email. You can get or send us a message on Facebook or Twitter. And I will endeavour to sort you out. But you definitely should have got an email through junk mail or through your inbox by now.
Yeah, okay.
You won't find it on the website.
Yeah, glad we cleared that up. And right, just let's get to the Scottish Cup draw. Rangers drawing at home to Raith Rovers. So a favourable draw, you have to say. Connor Fleming gets in touch and says, good morning, lads. Delighted to see us draw my former team in the Cup. Look forward to seeing a former teammate at Ibrox again. Fantastic stuff. Stevie, Raith Rovers at home, couldn't ask for any better than that. No disrespect to Raith Rovers, a lower league side, had a cracking result against Motherwell to reach this stage, which resulted in Stevie Hamill losing his job. But Rangers can't afford to take them lightly like they did sort of with Partick Thistle, I guess. That was the warning signs are there. However, home draw against anyone, particularly lower level opposition, you'll take that any day of the week.
Was it, Jonny, I just want to check, was it definitely Raith Rovers at home? I'm just checking.
To be honest, Stevie, I'm still not sure. To explain why Stevie's rubbing me, right? Every Monday, I have to deal with my 1-year-old. And to say that I'm getting frazzled by around 5 o'clock is to exaggerate intensely. And I thought, right, I need to tweet about whatever this draw is. So I'll put notifications on my phone from the BBC because I obviously can't watch the draw. And I'll stick it up the minute it goes up so people who follow me are aware of what the draw is. And of course, it flashes up. And Stevie's seen it, so he knows I'm not lying. It flashes up on the BBC Sport. Scottish Cup draw, Rangers versus Hibs. Now, that is what happened. So I just immediately think, oh, that's a home draw against Hibs. My two teams, tweet it out. And then, of course, Stevie immediately, thankfully, texts me and says, you do know that's the women's Scottish Cup draw. Okay. So yeah, I did receive quite a bit of a slagging on that one, but I'm blaming my 1-year-old daughter. So yes, it was a slightly brutal one, but I'm blaming that. I mean, do I have an excuse? Hibs are out after all. But there we go. These things happen. These things happen. Serenity now.
Exactly. It was a slight faux pas. Stevie, Wraith at home, what's your feeling towards that?
Do you know what? Joshua goes on holiday and the whole thing falls down. That's all I'm going to say. People can't get their forms. Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, we all know that Jonny's got a soft spot for Hibs. But when Frank Soze left, obviously, so did his feelings. So moving swiftly on. Wraith Rovers
For
at
people
home.
who don't know, there is a long-running joke that I'm a
Yes,
Hibs
that's just a joke. So before everybody gets overexcited, it's just an in-house joke with Jonny. Wraith Rovers at home. Good draw for us, a home draw straight away. You always want. The draw probably went exactly how we would want it in terms of that. Lower league opposition. It's going to be interesting, Derek, to see how difficult we can make it for ourselves, because that's what we tend to do. So let's hope that we've got Hibs, I think, midweek before it. So you would think that game, they would maybe, say to them, empty your tank against Hibs, and then we can take Wraith Rovers in isolation. It looks like it's probably going to be a Sunday. Yeah. I think we'll be looking at the 4 o'clock slot again with, the way that I think the rugby in Edinburgh is Sunday that day. So Hearts at home to Celtic would most likely be the Saturday slot. I think that's maybe how it's going to work out. So it might give us extra days to recover. We've just spoken about Michael Beale making, perhaps too many changes. So that may be fresh in his mind. But look, it's a quarter final. We're at home. It's against a team in the lower leagues, and they're going to come. They'll make it an absolute cup final. And I think, look, something I didn't mention, going back to Sunday's performance, I don't think that the players, for whatever reason, and it's maybe something that should never happen, but they didn't match Partick Thistle's enthusiasm. They treated it like a cup final. We treated it like a training game that we're going to win. They better believe that Wraith Rovers will come to Ibrox as a cup final and give it their absolute all as well, thinking we beat Motherwell, who are Premier League team. We can go and give this 100%. And it should be a warning to all the players and how they set up and how they go about it, that they really need to make sure and ensure that those mistakes doesn't happen. So match their enthusiasm, Derek, and the quality should certainly tell. And that's no disrespect to Wraith Rovers. They're a very good outfit and they'll come and have a right good go. But Rangers should in theory be taking care of them.
Yeah, totally agree. A few people taking issue with you blaming your young daughter, Jonny. Stuart Lang says that's a poor excuse. She can't defend herself. And Andy says, shame on you blaming your daughter. Ian says, just looking forward to when Jonny turns up at a press conference with his little one under his arm. I think that's not too far away, I think. Should I put a decent question towards Michael Beale as well? Who knows? But yeah, listen, Wraith Rovers at home, I think we would all have taken that before the draw was made. And the main thing was on the weekend was progression, I guess. But let's hope we can get a better performance moving forward. Right, folks, I think that'll do us there. Big thanks to Jonny and to Stevie. Just a reminder of that giveaway we've got on the website. 2 tickets for the League Cup final later on this month at Hampden. All you have to do, if you haven't signed up to be in with a chance, it's £1 for 3 months worth of content. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. And if you're already a subscriber, you should have an email with an entry form about how you can enter that competition. So do go check that, or your spam folder if you haven't already got it. Okay, we'll be back again tomorrow, but until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.